So I've been using Laravel for the past few months and I've gotten pretty comfortable with it, but I've only been using it with Livewire. And now that Inertia 2.0 is soon to be released, I wanted to try it out with Inertia because I haven't done that yet. And in order for me to get up and running and get familiar with it, I was going to do the Laravel Bootcamp that they provide because that's the same way I learned Laravel with Livewire. And I figured that I'd take this opportunity to record a video and kind of walk through that portion of the tutorial in order to share this video with anyone who might be trying to follow along and better understand what's going on. I'm going to try to explain as much as I can as I walk through the tutorial for the things that I know and understand in Laravel, but I will be using Vue.js, which is something that's kind of new to me. If you are trying to do the Inertia tutorial with React, I think that you can still follow along with this video. Really, the only differences are going to be the front end code that you'll be copying from the tutorial in order to get your code running. But for the most part, I'm going to just be using Vue.js and I'm going to walk through the whole tutorial. I won't be covering things like the deployment because I feel like that section covers all the different front ends that you use with Laravel. So that could be its own video. And if that's something you want me to do, let me know and I can do that in a future video. There is a lot of documentation and a lot of reference to different things in the documentation throughout the tutorial that you can go ahead and like learn on your own. You can pause this video and go check that stuff out and then come back when you're ready to continue working through the Inertia section of the Laravel Bootcamp. But for the sake of learning in public and sharing this with anyone who might want to walk through it with me and follow along for companionship in their learning experience, that's why I'm going to record this video and hopefully you guys find it helpful. Just a quick note, I do start off the video using PHP Storm as my IDE, but shortly into the video, I decided to switch over to VS Code because I felt that it would be easier for people to follow along with since most people will be using VS Code for the most part. I didn't want to confuse people by using PHP Storm, but really any IDE that you use will be fine for this tutorial. And I just wanted to mention that before we get started. With that said, let's get started. So here on the Laravel Bootcamp page, you see they kind of just have the intro and then the different ways that you can build with it, some little code snippets and examples of what it might look like, whether you're building with Livewire or Inertia. And for this video, I'm going to use Vue because I've used React in the past on other projects and I've been wanting to check out Vue for a while. So I figured that if I'm going to learn Inertia, I might as well learn it with Vue. So let's check that out. Their CRUD app that they have you build here is called Chirper, and it's sort of a Twitter clone. And again, it's just to really show you how to set up basic CRUD functionality within Laravel. So first thing you're going to want to do if you don't already have your local machine set up for running a PHP app is install PHP. You're also going to want to set up Composer and any other dependencies that you might need to run Laravel. They do have a guide that you can go to here that kind of shows you how to do that. And they use Herd, which is an app to help you run Laravel and PHP in your local machine. I do already have all of this installed in my machine, so I'm just not going to cover that now. So just a little note, if you are trying to do this, you're going to have to go through these steps first. So since I already do have that set up, I'm just going to go ahead and open up my terminal and run this Composer command to create the new project and change into the directory that I want to go to. And then I'm going to run that here. Here they say for simplicity, the Composer create project command will automatically create a new SQLite database. So running that command created the new project with Composer. And if we do run that command, it will create a SQLite database at the database directory. And that database is going to be called database.sqlite. Laravel ships with SQLite out of the box. You can easily set up other databases like MySQL, PostgreSQL, or pretty much any other SQL that you'd like to run. But out of the box, it comes with SQLite. It's nice and lightweight and gets everything up and running right away. You can use it for production, but if you don't want to, or you feel that SQLite might be a bottleneck for your application, you can always change the database that you're using. But for the sake of the bootcamp, I do suggest sticking with SQLite because it just gets it up and running nice and quickly, and you can start building and understanding how the framework works. So once we have that installed, I'm going to go ahead and open up my terminal within my IDE just to keep everything in one place. Let me go ahead and try to zoom in a little bit so that you guys can see everything a little bit better here. Now we're going to go ahead and run PHP artisan serve, and that's going to start up our local development server. We're also going to do a quick npm install to install all the dependencies because my IDE is telling me that it needs to run. So I'm just running that real quick. And then I'm also going to go ahead and start up Vite and get that running too so that we can have the front end server running as well. Okay, now that's all running. We should be able to go to our local host. Here, I'm going to open up an additional terminal just in case I need to run any other commands. So I'll go ahead and open localhost 8000, and you can see that now my Laravel app is up and running. Nice, right? If you'd like, you can install via Docker using Laravel Sail, but I'm going to skip that part because that's not what I'm going to cover in this video, but that is an option if you'd like to set everything up with Docker. The next part of this section is going to cover installing Laravel Breeze. Laravel Breeze is a starter kit that Laravel provides. It comes with authentication out of the box and a nice UI for your user dashboard for authenticated users. If you've ever had to set up authentication in other apps or other projects and other frameworks, you know that sometimes it can be a pain, but Laravel really does make it a breeze. They also have Jetstream, which comes with more features, but for the sake of doing what this tutorial and this course on the Bootcamp covers, I'm going to stick with Breeze, but I did want to mention that. And to install Breeze, you just got to run this composer command here. I'll just copy that, run that real quick. All right, so now that we installed Breeze, here you can see they have two options for our view layer, and we're going to be using Vue instead of React. You could choose to follow along with this tutorial in React, but I want to do this in Vue because that's what I'm trying to learn. Copy this command here, which is PHP artisan breeze install Vue. And the PHP artisan command, that's part of their CLI. And like I said, it's really nice. Later in the video, you're going to see how we can set up migrations and create models and create controllers all from that CLI. It's really, really nice. The more I use Laravel, the more I am enjoying using the CLI because it makes development a lot quicker and it makes me way more productive. And so we're going to kill that and then we're going to rerun it so that that will recompile. If you noticed before, when we first set this up, we did not have these two buttons here at the top. That is part of the Breeze package. It now has a login and a registration. We can go there and we can see what that looks like. If you go to the login, this is part of the UI of the login that Laravel offers out of the box. Really nice. In one command, we have a nice login page, and then we also have a nice register page here too. So pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and just create a user real quick so you can see what that looks like. I'm going to just call them admin, and we're going to give them a fake email, admin@admin.com. Then I'm going to get a secure fake password here, register. And now you can see we're logged in and we have a user dashboard here. Again, this all comes out of the box with Laravel Breeze. It's super nice. They offer this with the other packages as well. This is part of Breeze, not just part of Vue, but this Vue layer, I do believe, is all built in Vue. So that's pretty sweet, but you can see they have a few different things here. You can log out, you can check out the user profile, and you have ways to be able to update your password, update your email, and delete your account if you'd like here. And again, this is all just part of Laravel Breeze. Building with Laravel is a breath of fresh air if you've ever had to set any of this stuff up in other frameworks. It's one of the big reasons why I like Laravel so much, because it just takes care of so much stuff that's usually a pain to set up. Now, we've kind of done this already. I'm going to try not to read too much stuff unless it's things that I kind of am having a hard time explaining, because I feel like I'm covering the things that they're mentioning here with the things that I'm saying. But as we get further into the tutorial, I'll read some of this stuff if it's things that need to be better explained that I'm not doing a good job explaining. So next, let's start creating some chirps. Chirp, chirp. So now we're going to get into creating models, migrations, and controllers. If you're not familiar with Laravel and this is your first time using Laravel, Laravel uses a model view controller pattern. So if that's something that you're not familiar with, you'll learn a little bit more about that here. And they cover all of that in this tutorial. So real quick, I'll give a high level and read some of this stuff that they're talking about here. To allow your users to post chirps, you will need to create models, migrations, and controllers. Let's explore each of these concepts a little deeper. One thing about Laravel is that they have awesome documentation. So you can go into each one of these links and learn more about these things if you'd like to. For the sake of keeping this video sweet and short and to the point, I'm just going to kind of walk through the tutorial. But if you want to learn more about these things within Laravel, go check out their documentation. All of these things link to those sections of the documentation. And like I said, Laravel is known for having really good docs. So you'll learn a lot if you want to. But like I said, I kind of have learned most of this stuff as I've been using Laravel recently. So I'm just going to cover the things at a high level. So models provide a powerful and enjoyable interface for you to interact with the tables in your database. Migrations allow you to easily create and modify tables in your database. They ensure that the same database structures exist everywhere that your application runs. And controllers are responsible for processing requests made to your application and returning a response. Almost every feature you build will involve all of these pieces working together in harmony. So the artisan make model command can create all of that for you at once. Let's create a model migration and resource controller for our chirps with the following command. So here you can see the command. It's PHP artisan make model, and then they have this little modifier command here, which is MRC, and then chirp, which is going to be the name of the model that we're creating. If you want to see more of the commands, which I'll show you in a second, you can run PHP artisan make model -- help, and it'll show you all of the available commands that you have for when you're making a model. If you were just making a controller, you can do PHP artisan make controller. You can also, make a view. You can also make a enum. You can do a lot with this PHP artisan command, but for the tutorial, we're just going to run this, which is going to create the model, the controller, and the migration for us. So let's just run that real quick and I'll show you the files that it makes. I'm realizing that maybe PHP Storm wasn't the best tool for me to use for this tutorial, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to VS Code real quick. All right, now that I've switched over to VS Code, it's a little bit easier for me to zoom in and you can see more of what I'm trying to show here. I just wanted to mention real quick, I talked about the database directory and the database SQLite file that was created, and that's this file here, and that's this directory within the project. The database directory is also going to be where your factories live, where your migrations are going to be located, and also where your seeders are for seeding your database. So that's just something that I want to mention. I'm sure that they'll cover that more in this tutorial, but I just wanted to touch on that real quick because I did talk about the database folder and directory at the beginning of this, and I just wanted to make sure that I touched on that real quick, but that's where that SQLite file is. And now when I run that command that we have here to create the model, controller, and migrations, I'll show you where all those files are now to give you a better idea of the file structure within Laravel. So let's just go ahead and run that command. So real quick, I just want to show you what that command did. You can see here we have the model was created in the app models directory. We have the migration, which was created in the database directory, and then we have the controller that was created in the app HTTP controllers directory. And just to show you where all of that is, if you go into your app, you can see the HTTP directory here, and that's where your controllers are. And you can see that's the new chirp controller. I'll show you what that looks like. And here's that new controller that was created with the command. You can see they just kind of have all the boilerplate that you need for a controller here. Then I want to show you where the model was created. So you have your chirp model here, and that's the boilerplate for a model there. And then I want to show you the migration, which is back in the database directory under migrations. These were the migrations that were created when we first installed it, which creates the user table, a cache table, and a jobs table. And here is our chirps table that was just created. And it's going to have an up and down. You got your ID and some timestamps is what gets created by default for your migrations when you run that command. And you can see that migrations that you create are created with timestamps here at the front in order for you to keep track of migrations that you might create more of. For instance, if you have to kind of update something, or if you create a migration out of sequence, if you have something that has a relation with another table, and if you created the foreign key first and you didn't create a table for the item that's going to have the primary key, it might be out of sync and it might cause an error. So you want to make sure that your migrations are created in the proper order, and the timestamp here will let you know when migrations were created. If you've worked with migrations in the past, you'll kind of understand that a little bit, but that's just something that I wanted to note because it could get you messed up if you create multiple migrations and then have problems with errors on migrating and creating those tables when you have dependencies from tables that were created before they were supposed to be or after they were supposed to be. So just something to note there. And here, that's pretty much what this covered here. And I showed you where all of that stuff lives. So then we're going to quickly talk about routing and talk about how routing works within Laravel. We will also need to create URLs for our controllers. We can do this by adding routes, which are managed in the routes directory of your project. Because we're using a resource controller, you can use a single route : resource statement to define all of the routes following a conventional URL structure. To start with, we are going to enable two routes: the index route, which will display our form and a listing of chirps, and the store route, which will be used for saving new chirps. We are also going to place these routes behind two middlewares. The auth middleware ensures that only logged in users can access the route, And the verified middleware will be used if you decide to enable email verification. Again, the great thing about Laravel is that all of this stuff kind of comes out of the box, and setting up that middleware is just part of Laravel and part of Breeze, and it makes it super easy for you to put things behind a middleware and make sure that only authenticated users go to certain routes or are allowed to see certain routes. So we're going to go to the routes directory and the web.php file in order to set this up. And I'm just going to show you what this code looks like here. And I'm going to kind of copy this stuff over and make sure that we have everything. So there are some routes that are already defined in your routes web.php file, but the ones that we're going to be adding is this new route here. So let's go to that file. So you can see that web.php file here where your routes are defined. We're going to take the new routes for our chirps controller and put it here. And you can see that we have routes resource chirps, which is pointing to that chirps controller. And then we're saying that it's only for the index and the store. And then you have your middleware here that is saying it's for auth and verified if you do enable verified emails here. So I need to import this chirps controller real quick. Just do that up here. And that should resolve that linter error, and that should be good to go. Let's move on to the next part of the tutorial. So this created the following routes. It created a get for chirps with the action of index, and that will point to the chirps.index route. And then we have a post with the URI for chirps as well, and the action is store, and that is a route name of chirps.store. You can view all your routes in your application by running this command. Here, I'll do that real quick just so you can see what that looks like. Make that a little bit bigger because it's going to probably have quite a few routes. And you can see these are all the routes in your application currently. And that's a nice way to just know what all your routes are and what their names are and how you can point to them. So, you know, they're all listed here. These are the ones that we created. So you have the chirps.index and the chirps.store here. And it shows the methods that they have there and the controller that they're pointing to. And I'll show you how that points to the controller methods now, because basically we just need to create some methods with those names in the controller, and then that route will know to point to those methods to do what it's supposed to do. Oh, also real quick, I just wanted to run the PHP artisan help command so you can just get a quick idea of all the available PHP artisan commands that you have with the PHP artisan CLI. So do this, and I'm just gonna do, instead of just doing it for the model, I'm just gonna do PHP artisan, and that'll list all the available commands that we have. So you can see there are a ton of artisan commands that you can run that will just make your life so much easier and so much more productive as a developer when you're working in Laravel. These are all PHP artisan commands that you can run to create different things, to list different things, to listen for different things. And it's really so nice. Laravel is so nice. Don't mean to digress. I just want to make sure that I cover some of these things in detail, because I know that for any newcomers, they might have a lot of questions on what some of this stuff is doing or how they can learn more about this stuff. And I'm just trying to share the little tidbits of information that I've kind of learned and things that people might find helpful. Just want to make sure that I cover as much as I can and add as many little things as I can to make your life easier when you're learning this stuff. All right, so now let's test our new route and controller by returning a test message with the index method. So in the index method, we're going to just return a response of hello world. So let's go in there and see if we already have an index method created in the controller. So again, for the sake of showing you where stuff is, I'm going to try not to use my keyboard shortcuts to find stuff with like Command P and just go straight to a file, just because I think that a big part of learning the framework is learning the file structure and kind of learning where everything is. And for the most part, I'll say that like the main directory that you're going to be working in is going to be the app directory. That's where a lot of the stuff lives. So I'll try to like navigate through the file structure a little bit more during this tutorial, just to maybe help you guys find your way through the framework, because there are quite a bit of files and it can be a little overwhelming for people who are new to Laravel or new to like a full stack framework. So for the sake of trying to help you learn more, I'll try not to use too many shortcuts, like just going directly to the file. So let's go back to the chirp controller here. And you can see here, we have a index function that already came with the boilerplate that was created for us when we ran the command. And in that index function, I'm just gonna return the response of hello world. We're gonna save that. And then we are going to go to the chirps page which is going to be localhost chirps. So here, let's see. I might have signed in too soon, and I think it's going to take us straight to it. And you can see up here, we have the hello world. I'll zoom in to that a little bit more because it's kind of hard to see in the corner there, but that's the response that was returned with the chirps. Now, just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to sign out because I have a feeling they're going to cover this. And now we're in like grandma vision because I'm super zoomed in, so the UI is a little funky, but we'll go back to chirps. And now you can see it's prompting me to log in because I am signed out, and that is that middleware at work. But since we already created an account and I probably skipped some steps in the tutorial, we're just going to sign in here and get to that page that we were trying to get to. So see, they kind of returned that in the login page when I tried to sign in. But now if we go to chirps, you can see there's the hello world. Now, Inertia. This area is new to me, so it's going to be new to us if you're just getting started with this. So I'm probably going to read through more of this because I have mostly worked in Livewire within Laravel, and I haven't done this section yet, so I kind of want to learn this stuff too. So I'll try to read out loud and follow along with it and not get ahead of myself, make sure that we're all learning here at the same time. All right, so Inertia. Not impressed yet? Let's update the index method of our chirps controller class to render a front-end page component using Inertia. Inertia is what links our Laravel application with our Vue or React front end. So now in the controller, we are going to bring in Inertia and Inertia response, and then we're going to render the chirps index here, which I'm guessing is going to point to a view that we're going to create soon. So real quick, let me update this before getting to the next section. So let's make sure we've got that imported, and then let's update our index to return this chirps index here. So we'll get rid of this, and then we'll add that. And now that's empty. So let's see what the next step is. All right, now we can create a new front-end chirps index page component with a form for creating new chirps. So we are using Vue. Again, if you're following along, if you want to do this in React, it's as simple as just clicking this tab and doing the React stuff. Again, I'm kind of interested in learning Vue. I really want to use Inertia with Vue when I need something that's front-end heavy and I need a front-end framework. I've used React in the past, but I've been very interested in learning Vue.js. So I'm going to do that for this tutorial to help me kind of understand it a little, because I really have never worked with Vue before. I've seen some of the code, but I'm not familiar with it. So this will be new to me. But it looks like we're going to create a page in our resources. It's going to be under the JS directory within there. So here, I'm just going to copy this whole thing, but you can see that this is just a Vue file with a layout here. And we have some imports at the top. We have our script tag up there. We have our form here that's going to submit our form for us with the message. I'm just kind of looking at this to try to understand it a little bit. So then we have our template, which has our HTML here, the title there for the head, authentication layout, which is going to be a layout that we're importing. And then within that, we're going to have our form here that is going to be handling our chirps. So let's just copy all this, copy that, go to our view. Let me close all these real quick. So our resources are here, and this is where most of your views are going to live. Again, I've been used to working in this file mostly because that's where a lot of the Blade and Livewire stuff happens. But since we're using Vue.js, we're going to be working in the JS directory a little bit more. And let me see exactly where that goes. So it was the JS directory, and then we're going to go under pages, chirps, and index.vue. So let's see if that's created for us. It's not created yet, so let's go ahead and create that. So we're going to do a new directory here. I wish I was super cool and just did all this in the terminal, but I am going to just do it here real quick, and we're going to call that chirps. And then in the chirps, we're going to create a file, and that's going to be index.vue. And then we're going to paste what I just copied there. Here, it seems like my IDE is not picking it up. Oh, that's because I've never used Vue before. So I'm going to install the Vue extension for VS Code real quick just to make my life a little bit easier so that I can actually have some code formatting or highlighting, I should say. So that's installed now. And as you can see, let me make everything smaller there and go back to our file structure here. And now you can see we're in the resources JS, and under pages chirps, we've got that index.view file that I just copied over. So that's looking good there. And let's see what that looks like in the UI, because we should be able to hit that now when we go to the chirps page and see if it live reloaded. Nope, but I did now just reload my screen, and you can see we have that UI that we just put in there, which is just a text area and a button to submit this form. And it is rendered within that authentication layout, and that was what's wrapping this. So you can see this authenticated layout. It's what's wrapping that. Where that it says that comes directly from, okay, so it comes from layouts at view. So if we go to our layouts here, you can see we have our authenticated layout, which is what's wrapping that form, and that's what's adding all that extra UI that just comes out of the box with Laravel Inertia and the view package there. So that's pretty nice. All right, so let's go back to this. I just wanted to show you guys that so you can see where that was coming from. And then let's see, so refresh your page, we did that. Now our front end is powered by JavaScript. Any changes we make on our JavaScript templates will automatically be reloaded in the browser whenever the Vite development server is running. I didn't get live reload there though. I had to force a reload, so not sure why that didn't do it on its own, and maybe I'm missing something, but let's move on. So the navigation menu here. Let's take a moment to add a link to the navigation menu provided by Breeze. Update the authenticated layout component provided by Breeze and add a menu item for desktop screens. So here's just a nav link that they're providing, and I just showed you guys that file, so we'll go to it. I wish I can just click through there. I can't wait for the VS Code official Laravel extension that's supposed to be coming out, because that's going to make it a lot nicer to work with. But we're going to be adding that link, and it said in the desktop view, I believe this is the desktop view. It looks like it here, so we're just going to add that link here. It's going to do a little bit of formatting for us, and then we'll save that and go back here. And then I believe that that's it. That's our chirps. So we got our dashboard, and now we have our chirps there that I just added with this here. And you can see that the href here is pointing to the route of chirps index, which is that controller method that we were hitting there. And it's showing a state of active when we are on that current route. So if you can see this little UI update where this is their active state. If we're on dashboard, it's showing dashboard because that's the current active state. And then when we click here, now this little bar at the bottom is showing that that's the active link that we're on. And that's all being done by pointing to the route that's there. So it also wants us to add it to the mobile screen. So we'll go ahead and copy this responsive nav link here. And let's see where the responsive nav links are for here. That looks like this one here. So we'll just drop that there and save that there, and then go back to our layout here and make that a little bit smaller and see if it's there. There's our chirps. So you got your dashboard and then our chirps. Chirp, chirp. All right, cool. All right, so that's all working. Let's follow on and get through this. Let's see. Saving the chirp. Our form has been configured to post messages to the chirp store route that we created earlier. Let's update the store method in our chirp controller class to validate the data and create a new chirp. So it looks like we're going to be importing a redirect response here, and then we're going to be updating that store method that we were pointing to then validate the message, make sure that it's required, that it's a string, and then it's a max length of 255 characters. And then you can see there's a request to then create a chirp here in the database, and then we redirect back to the chirps index. So let's go ahead and just kind of copy this here, go to our controller, and then it was in our create. Oh no, it was our store. There's our store. I'm going to paste that there. I'll remove this comment here. We need to import this. It's not giving me any smart imports there. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, like I said, I'm kind of used to using PHP Storm that has a lot of that stuff that just kind of works when I need it to by doing a command period shortcut, and then it just imports it for me. But I'm not using PHP Storm because I figured VS Code would just be better for this, and most people are going to be using VS Code. So here's a little bit of like what I just covered, but I want to just read this again to make sure that I didn't miss anything. We're using Laravel's powerful validation feature to ensure that a user provides a message that won't exceed 255 character limit for our database column that we'll be creating. We're then creating a record that belongs to the logged in user by leveraging the chirps relationship. We will define that relationship soon. Finally, when using Inertia, we can return a redirect response to instruct Inertia to reload the chirps index route. Again, that's kind of everything I mentioned here. This is the validation of the message here. So it's, they're creating a validated variable with the request that's coming in, and that's the message that we defined earlier in here. So that would be this message that's coming in, and then that controller is going to validate that with the nice Laravel validation that's included there. So we're going to validate for these things here, and then it's going to do a request for the user and then the chirps relationship that they have, and then it's going to create the validated request here, and then it's just going to redirect. I think I covered that. I feel like now I'm being a little bit too redundant and just making sure that I didn't miss anything. So creating a relationship. So here we go. We're going to do some database stuff now. We're going to create a relationship. You may have noticed that the previous step called for chirps method on the request user object. We need to create this method in our user model to define a has many relationship. So Eloquent, the ORM that's used within Laravel, has a lot of stuff that just works. There's a lot of just auto magic in the ORM. I like it. I think it's nice, and it prevents us from having to write too much SQL or not much SQL at all. And we just use a lot of these methods that they have. So we're going to create this relationship in our user model. Our user is the user that's logged in, and we're going to give this method the chirps, which is what that request was pointing to in the store method in the controller. And then it's going to say that it has a relationship of many, saying that a user in this model can have many chirps. So just do that real quick. So let me go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. Let me close this here. And then we're going to go back to the app. Like I said, the app directory is going to be kind of the meat and potatoes of your Laravel project as far as the backend stuff goes. And in your models, we have our chirp here, which we're probably going to go ahead and create a belongs to right after this. But first, we're going to create the has many relationship in the user model here. So this is your user model, and this is what comes out of the box. There's the fillable fields here for like the name and password, and there's some hidden fields here as well, and there's some cast types of those fields. But this down here, we're going to add this chirps has many type, and it's going to return that it has many chirps from the database and the class of chirps here. So let's add the has many import from Eloquent up here. And then that resolves that. And now we have that there. And then kind of like what I was saying, Laravel offers many different types of model relationships that you can read more about in the Eloquent relationships documentation there. That's kind of what I was saying. Probably said it in a much quicker and easier way than I did. I feel like I give long-winded explanations sometimes, but that's all right. We have mass assignment protection here. So we'll talk about a little bit of what I was just kind of mentioning there, which has to do with the fillable array and some of those other arrays. Passing all of the data from a request to your model can be risky. Imagine if you have a page where users can edit their profiles. If you were to pass the entire request to the model, then a user could edit any column they'd like, such as an is admin column. This is called a mass assignment vulnerability. Laravel protects you from accidentally doing this by blocking mass assignments by default. Mass assignment is very convenient though, as it prevents you from having to assign each attribute one by one. We can enable the mass assignment for safe attributes by making them fillable. Again, that's that fillable array that I mentioned there. And now we're going to add that to the chirps model. So let's add a fillable property to our chirps model and enable mass assignment for the message attribute. In our chirps model, which is right here, we're going to add the new fillable for chirps, which is going to be a protected array named fillable. And we're going to have the message, which is going to be what is able to be mass assigned. We'll just save that and then move on to the next part of the tutorial. And you can learn more about all of this stuff at their documentation. Again, their documentation is great. There's plenty to learn there. I've been going through a lot of it myself as I've been building with Laravel, and it's really, really nice. So updating the migration. During the creation of the application, Laravel already applied the default migrations that are included in the database migrations directory. You may inspect the current database structure by using the PHP artisan db show and PHP artisan db table commands. So here we can do this, and let's just do it so we can see what it looks like. So we have our db show here, and this command is gonna, let me clear this, and then paste that, and then do db show, and it's gonna make this a little bit bigger so you can see everything here. And it's kind of showing the information about our database, what database we're using, the connection, all of these different things that are here. And then we're going to show the tables that they have here. So these are the different tables that were created. We have the cache tables, the jobs tables, the migration tables, and then we have some of those ones that were created by default. We have the user, the session, and the password reset tokens that were all those migration files that I showed you earlier. I don't see the chirps though. Did we not create that? I thought we did. Let's just do this command real quick to show the table users and show the information in the user table. Here are the columns that the table has. We have ID, name, email, verified at, email, password, remember tokens, and then some timestamps there. And that's the users table there. So you can use those commands to tell you more about your database items and tables there. So let's see here. So the only thing missing is the extra columns for our database to store the relationship between a chirp and its users and the message itself. Remember the database migration we created earlier. It's time to open that file and add some extra columns. Okay, so now we're going to add our foreign key ID here to show the relation between the user and the chirps. And then we're also going to add the column for messages or message for the chirps themselves. So every time a user creates a chirp, it's going to make a new chirp in the database for chirps, and then they're going to be attached to the user via a foreign key relationship on the user ID here. And let's just add this real quick to that migration file. Again, I know I have that file open up there, but for the sake of showing you guys the file structure to help you get used to that, we're going to go to database, we're going to go to migrations, and then we're going to go to that chirps file here. Here you have our schema, and we're going to add that foreign ID here that's constrained and made to cascade on delete. So yeah, let's see what the next step is. We haven't migrated the database since we added this migration. So let's do that now. And we do that with the PHP artisan migrate command, another sweet little command here. So we're going to just go ahead and PHP artisan migrate. And now we've migrated that migration file that we created. So now our database will show that it has that. So if we do this, we should see that chirps table now. And there it is. And that's why we didn't see it earlier. I forgot that I had not migrated yet. So there we are. Chirps is now in our DB. Each database migration will only be run once. To make additional changes to a table, you will need to create another migration. During development, you may wish to update a migration and rebuild your database from scratch using PHP Artisan Fresh. So running this PHP Artisan Fresh will wipe our database every time. Be very careful with that. Do not run that in production. And, always have your database backed up if you're in production, just in case you make a terrible mistake. But that kind of goes with some of the stuff I was saying earlier with making sure that your migration files are in the proper order when you're migrating and things like that. When you do update your database tables, when you're in production, you'll have to create new migration files if you need to update existing tables. And it's just something to be aware of, and just be very careful with the migrate fresh because it will wipe everything. So if I ran that now, I would have to create a new user because that user will no longer be there. And any chirps that I may have created already would be gone. We're not going to run the fresh because we don't need to, because we're still pretty refreshed to death right now. Yeah, I just said that. All right, we're ready to send a chirp using the form we just created. You won't be able to see the results yet because we haven't displayed existing chirps on the page yet. If you leave the message field empty or enter more than 255 characters, you will see the validation in action. So here's some of the just default validation stuff that comes out of the box with Laravel. So if I try to do that, well, let's refresh it first. If I try to do that, boom, our message is required. So remember in our chirps controller, we tried to send that request and it just hit this required validation condition and it said, hey, this is required. We can't do this. So it's not going to allow that to go through. Now, anything I type in would be a string. Even if I typed in numbers, it will still be taken in as a string. So that will probably pass if I type anything. But if I try to go over 250 characters, this will also get triggered as well. So, maybe we can try that out. We'll say this is a chirp. And we'll just copy that a gazillion times. All right, that's probably way more than 250. Oh, and now I tried to submit that, and you can see that we get the validation error there. So it's just really nice to have some validation built in. And I'm just going to say this is a chirp, and we're going to submit that, and boom, now we got a chirp. Our chirp's out in the wild. So this is a great time to learn about Artisan Tinker. Tinker is a REPL, a read, evaluate, print loop where you can execute arbitrary PHP code in your Laravel application. In your console, let's start a new Tinker session. I've been using Tinker a little bit, mostly for running a few scripts that I need to run, but I don't use it too much. It's still something that's kind of new to me, but let's go ahead and open that up now. You can see we have a REPL here, which we're probably going to check our database now for the chirp. And then here we're going to point to our app models chirp, and we're going to list them all right now. So then we're going to go like that, and we're going to list them all. And then you can see here, we have our chirp that we created. This is a chirp, and the timestamp when it was created, the user ID that it's associated with that has that relation that we created in the migration, and then the ID of the chirp here. We won't exit Tinker just yet. I'll just leave it running now, but now we're going to move on to the showing chirps section. All right, let's show some chirps. I can't say that fast. Show some chirps. All right. Retrieving the chirps. Let's update the index method in our controller class to pass chirps from every user to our index page. All right, so now we're going to do a little bit more eloquent magic here. We're going to be passing in the chirps with the chirps with user ID and name. So it's going to get the latest chirps from that user ID and name here. So let's just copy that. Go to our controller, go to the index here, and we're going to paste that right here. And we're going to save that. Here we've used eloquence with method to eager load every chirp associated user ID and name. We've also used the latest scope to return the records in reverse chronological order. Returning all chirps at once will not scale in production. Take a look at Laravel's powerful pagination to improve performance. Laravel's pagination is awesome. Honestly, I've used it already a few times in my applications that I've been building with Laravel. It's super nice. It comes with like Tailwind styles out of the box. You could also like add Bootstrap styles and other CSS framework styles to it, but it's just like super nice and just works. Like literally it's like 2 lines of code and then you have pagination on any page that you want to paginate. So it's super, super nice, but we're not going to cover that. But if you wanted to, you could go there and learn more about it in their docs. Again, their docs are awesome. I'm not going to stop saying that, by the way. You'll get sick of me saying that, but it's true. So connecting users to a chirp. We've instructed Laravel to run the ID and the name property from the user relationship so that we can display the name of the chirps without returning other potential sensitive information such as the author's email address, but the chirps user relationship hasn't been defined yet. Let's fix this by adding a belongs to relationship in our chirp model. Told you we were going to do that earlier. Again, I try not to get ahead of myself with these things because I know that people are following along, but in anticipation to having to do these things and knowing that it's coming, I mention it. It helps me remember, and it's also just good to know. Oh, I got to go to the chirps model. This is a user. So here you have your has many relationship, right? And it says that a user has many chirps. It points to this chirp class, which is this model right here. And then in this model, we're going to say that a chirp belongs to, oh crap. We're going to import that here. And then we're going to say that a chirp belongs to a user. So here we say chirp's user belongs to the user class. So this points to the user class. And if you go to this user class and you go to the chirps, then you can see that it has a many relationship in the chirps class, and you go to the chirps class and you see it that belongs to the user. And that's what you'll be referencing in those eloquent requests and when you're pulling in data from the models and whatnot. So that's where this stuff comes into action here. So you're pointing to the model, and then it's going to the user in that model here, right? And then it's pulling that from the DB. So I just wanted to talk about that because that's basically what this is saying here, and that's how the relationships link to each other. So you have to make sure that you have the inverse relationships. When you define a relationship to one model, you have to make sure that it points to another model. If you start getting in the weeds of like models that have a many to many with the many to many, then you have to like create pivot tables, and that's just way beyond the scope of this. But it's all stuff that I've kind of been learning recently because, you know, I'm kind of new to a lot of this database stuff. So we'll learn together. All right. Next, updating our component. Next, we'll create a chirp component on our front end. This component will be responsible for displaying an individual chirp. So here we're going to go to our resources where our views are defined. We're going to go to the JS directory within our resources directory. We're going to go to components, and in components, we're going to create a chirps .view component. So let's see if we already have a components directory there. Let's close this. We'll go down to resources. We'll go to JS. We'll go to components. And then you can see we have a lot of the components that kind of ship out of the box with Laravel, Breeze, and Vue, but we don't have a chirps component. So in here, we're going to create a new file, and was it chirps or chirp? Chirp.view, and then now we have a new view file. And again, I'm kind of looking this over. I'm going to put it in the ID just because I feel like it's easier for me to read in the ID than this code block there. And I'm going to paste that here. I'm going to close the terminal for now because it's making my screen too busy. So then we got our script. We define our props chirp. I'm kind of looking through this because I'm new to Vue, and I mostly have done React stuff with, you know, on the front end framework side of things, and I've worked with Angular. And a lot of this stuff, once you worked with one, you kind of just have to figure out the syntax and notice the differences. And I know that Vue uses more like HTML out of the box. So I just kind of wanted to look at this a little bit so I can understand what's going on. But it really does look like it's just kind of displaying stuff here. We have our chirp username that's going to be displayed here in this span tag. And then we have the timestamp here that's going to be displayed, and then the actual message itself here. And again, like the magic that's happening in Vue with Laravel, it's pulling in these models, and you know, that's the user model and the name for the user. That's the timestamp from the chirp model, and then this is the actual message column in the chirp model and table too. So that's kind of what's going on there. So let's see. Let's move on there. Finally, we update our chirp index page component to accept the chirps prop and render the chirps below our form using our new component. All right, so here in our index view, we're going to import that component that we just created. It was in the pages. Where was it? Chirps index. And then we were importing the chirp component. We got to define the props. So this is new for me, but it's just kind of defining props. So we just do that here. Do we define it at the top? Okay, it seems like they're doing it right here above the form method there. And then where are we going to import that component here? Okay, seems like, so that's a for loop. So chirps in chirp, and then that's the prop that we're passing in. So we're looping over that, and then we're going to use the ID from chirp as a key, and then we're going to show the chirp. Chirp, chirp, chirps. All right, so let's just copy that. And we're putting that right under our form tag here. And save that. And then now we should be able to list that, and boom, there's my chirp from earlier. The one that we created is there now, and you can see it here on the page. It's looking really clean, really nice. This is working very nicely. And you can see this is exactly what our page looks like too. For extra credit, should we do extra credit? Oh, okay, we've got to install a package here. In our chirps component, we formatted the dates to be human readable. You can take one step further and display the relative dates using the popular day.js library. First installed. Sure, let's do this. Why not? Let's do this. Extra credit. Let's go. It's always good to go the extra mile. I need to close out the REPL. Let's just clear that for for cleanliness, install day.js. We're going to import this stuff, and then we're going to do that. So let's just copy this right here. Go to our chirp view. I'm just going to go this way now. Again, that's in the resources. And then we're just importing that. We're importing that at the top in the script tag of setup. So we do that here. And then we're going to swap out the local string from the DB, and we're going to do this now. So from now, does that kind of give us like a time? So let's see what it looks like before. Okay, so you see we have like a date and a time there, which is just kind of a timestamp. And then if we go here, where was that? Am I replacing this whole div or just a small? So just a small. So we're going to replace that with this, which is now using that day.js created at now, and then we'll save that and see what that looks like. Yep, and then now it says X minutes ago, so that's pretty nice. Cool. There's our extra credit. Killing it. Let's go. Let's take a look at the browser. Okay, we kind of just did that, and then feel free to chirp some more and even register another account and start a conversation. That would just be crazy if I did that, but let's do in my DJ Khaled voice another one. Enter. Boom. Another one. All right. God, I sound so corny. Let's get to editing it. Let's get to our update part of this CRUD functionality that we're implementing with Inertia and Laravel. All right, so routing. First, we will need to update our routes, enable the chirps update route for our controller. Okay, so now we're going to add this new method to the controller to point to in our routes in order for the controller to point to that update method when we do an update request. So let's just go here. Let's go here, do a little comma there and then update. That looks like crap. All right. Let's do that. And now you can see that in our routes table, this is what our controller looks like. And that looks like I did that right. So updating our component. Here we go. All right, some more Vue.js stuff. Let's see. Let's update our chirp component to have an edit form for existing chirps. We're going to use the drop-down component that comes with Breeze, which will only display the chirp author, will also display an indication of a chirp has been edited by comparing the chirps created at date with its updated at date. Okay, sounds good. So then we're going to kind of import all of this stuff. I think I'm just going to copy this whole thing and just replace what I have in there. Actually, you know, this is all part of that script tag. So I'm just going to copy this whole script tag for the sake of making this a little bit easier. Oh, that's not the one I want to go to. We're going to go here and we're going to just replace that whole thing there. So that should look good. That was a chirp.vue file that we did that in. And now we're going to be adding the drop down. We're going to show an edited, and this is all Vue.js stuff that's new to me. So there's an if statement there. And if the created at is not equal to the updated at, then we're going to show this edited little text here to show that the message was edited. And then we have another drop down here that if the chirp user is equal to the page props auth user ID, then they will see this. Okay, so then only the user that will see that will see that. Again, I'm kind of going over this stuff just to know what it's doing. I always like to look at the code just so I can understand what's happening. So then we're going to be replacing the paragraph tag that just is displaying the message now with an if statement, and it's going to be checking if it's in editing. To prevent the form put request. Okay, there's a lot more stuff going on here, and it's kind of hard to read in this because I keep having to kind of scroll to the side. So I'm just going to replace the whole template here, and then let me just highlight that and then replace that template there. And then I'm going to kind of make things a little bit easier for me to read here because like I said, I did want to see that because I want to understand the Vue.js myself, and I hope that you guys appreciate me going over this. If you already know Vue and this is kind of simple to you, fast forward, because I feel that I'm doing this for my own sake because I just want to understand what's going on a little bit more because I'm new to Vue.js and this is all new to me. So it's at submit prevent form put route update and chirp ID on success editing equals false. All right. So it's basically just kind of showing if it's in editing mode, and then that editing was being passed in as a prop. Is that how it's coming in as? Where is editing? So it's a ref. Okay. So editing, okay. This is all kind of new to me. I don't want to get too caught up in this because I feel like it's taken away from what the intent of this video is. So let's just move on and see if it just explains it to us. Updating our controller. We can now update the update method in our chirp controller class to validate the request and update the database. Even though we're only displaying the edit button to the author of the chirp, we also need to authorize the request to make sure that it's actually the author that is updating it. Okay, so now we're going to create a gate in the chirp controller, and then we're going to still has a request and a chirp coming in to the method itself, but then we're given a type of redirect response, and then we are checking the gate to authorize for the update, and if that's authorized for that chirp that's being passed in, and then we validate, and then all the same stuff. Okay, so let's just update this, and then we're gonna go to the chirp controller. And is that the update method? Okay, so we have an update method. Okay, so the update method is new. So then basically doing the same exact like validation, the same setting of the chirp, but instead of like creating a new one, we're updating it. So it's kind of passing in the existing chirp, checking it on that gate, and then allowing us to do the update once it passes validation. And now I need to import the gate from the facade here. And then that should be good. And then you may have noticed the validation rules are duplicated with the store method. You might consider extracting them and using Laravel's form request validation, which makes it easy to reuse. We're not going to do that for the sake of just moving forward with this tutorial because we are getting pretty close to the end here. I want to say that you could do that. I did see that stuff was being repeated, and for the sake of being dry, you could dry that up, but also it's just a tutorial to teach us how to use some of the basic stuff in Laravel and Inertia, so I'm not going to go the extra mile for that. Okay, so we're going to talk about authorization. By default, the authorized method will prevent everyone from being able to update the chirp. We can specify who is allowed to update by creating a model policy with the following command. And we do PHP artisan policy, chirp policy, and then we point to the model that it's for. So let's go ahead and create that policy here, and we'll just add that command. That's PHP artisan make policy and then chirp policy. And then policies are also under the app directory, but in the policies directory within the app directory. So here we can see our new chirp policy that was created. I'm getting some linter errors here, but I'm not going to pay attention to that right now. Hopefully it doesn't break my stuff. And then here we're going to show what the policy is. So the policy is just a way to handle authorization, and that policy is just showing that the chirps user is the user that's being passed in to that policy. So it's just basically checking the chirp user against the user that's being passed in and making sure that that's the one on the update. So let's see, where is our update here? And then we'll just pass that in. This is expecting a return type of Boolean. They don't have any return types. Hopefully this doesn't break anything. I could just return true on all of these, or just remove this so that it makes the linter be quiet. Hopefully it doesn't mess anything up when it tries to compile that real quick. I don't think it should. So testing it out. Time to test it out. Let's go ahead and edit a few chirps using the drop-down menu. If you register another user account, you'll see that only one author of the chirp can edit. All right, so let's go and let's see. What's this? Why am I getting that? I'm getting duplicate props, so we don't need this one because I'm redefining props. And then where am I using props again? So then props is being passed in there, so we don't need that one because we already have props there, and that's probably what that was. All right, that looks good. I don't know why I'm getting duplicates here. Love when you start crashing and burning. So I can edit this, but I'm not sure why I'm getting duplicates. You know why? I know why I'm getting duplicates. Because when I copied and pasted the code from the tutorial, it was showing a diff and basically had both blocks of code. So this was the original, if I'm not mistaken, and that original code is just showing by default and not kind of coming through this new if statement that we put in. So if I remove that, we should be good and see the new one. And then if I edit, let me reload this. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now we're good. Let's say another 2. I don't know. I've got nothing here. All right, another 2. And now we got our edited flag. So everything seems to be working now as expected. And let's make sure that that updated in the database. So then if we do our PHP artisan tinker, so we have our chirps all there, and then make that a little bit bigger, of course. And then here you can see that it's been updated in the database. So cool. And then you can see that like the edited is based off of these timestamps here. And that's what was checking against the timestamps. And the first message is not displaying edited because the timestamps are the same. And that condition was checking to see if they were different to show that it had been edited. And that's looking like it's all working. Sweet. I'm glad I didn't crash and burn during the tutorial because I was wondering what some of those errors were, but not a big deal. Easy fix. Let's go to the next part of this thing. All right, deleting chirps. Let's see. Sometimes no amount of editing can fix a message. So let's give our users the ability to delete their chirps. Hopefully you're starting to get the hang of things now. We think you'll be impressed how quickly you can add this feature. So in the routing, we're going to add a destroy to point to in that route here. And then that's going to delete the chirp. And then we're going to update the controller on the destroy method to add an authorized gate to delete. So then we'll probably have to update the policy and allow that, which I'm guessing it's going to be like the same policy. So let's start from where we're at. And for the sake of showing you guys where everything is, I'm going to clean this up and we're going to go to routes. We're going to go to web.php and then we're going to add that destroy that we need to add there. And then in our controller under destroy, we are going to add that new stuff. Where is destroy? So we got destroy here at the bottom. I'm going to replace this. Now we have this gate that's going to authorize to the delete method in the gate, and then it's going to check the chirp and then delete the chirp. So we're going to have to go to the gate. And where's the policy? So here we're going to have a destroy, or probably is going to be under the delete, I'm guessing. Yep, so we're going to be under the delete. And then I'm guessing we're going to probably add the same exact thing. I'm going to jump the gun here, and hopefully it's not different, but I'm guessing it's going to have to be the same thing because only the chirp user should be able to delete their own. And let's see if I didn't jump ahead of myself and get myself in trouble here. So it's an update. Is that not what I did? So I jumped the gun there, and I got to copy that. And then this is supposed to be this. And then I'm going to save all of it. And then rather than repeating the logic from the update method, we can define the same logic by calling the update method from our delete method. Anyone that is authorized can update. Okay, so for the sake of being dry and not repeating the same exact thing, we are essentially doing the same exact thing. And I kind of confused myself when I was looking at it because I was like, what do you mean update? But duh. It just means that we're pointing to this update method. This update is this update, and it's just going to return this, and that's going to return here. So basically, it's going to just check to see this method, and then it's going to return if this is true. So we could just copy this and put it there, but for the sake of keeping the code a little bit dry and handling everything in one spot, you can just call this update method within the delete. Now, let's say you had some different conditions on whether or not someone could delete something. You would then check against those conditions and return the Boolean that you would need to be returned based off of those conditions. So that's just something to note there, and my fault for jumping the gun. So finally, we can add the delete button to our drop-down menu that we created earlier in the chirps component. So then we're going to add a drop-down link in that component, and then we're just going to add that here. So let's just go to that chirp component. Again, let's just go through the file structure so that you can kind of know what we're doing, because it helps you learn the layout a little bit more. I'll close that. Let's just go ahead and add that component here. And then we are going to add the drop-down link after the edit button in that. Let me see if I can just find edit and then edit. So after this edit button, we're going to add that drop-down link there. That's going to pass to the destroy route there, and then it's a delete method. So then that should be there, and now we can test it out. So let's go ahead and open that back up. Hopefully there's no errors. Reload that real quick, and now we have this delete button here, and then I can delete this message. Boom, it's gone. no validation, no modal, no confirmation. We're just deleting stuff because we don't care. And then you can see I reloaded the page, is no longer there. We'll go ahead and open this back up. And since I have already been kind of running that, let's run this again to see if our chirps are there. And now you can see that I only have our first original chirp that I created, and the other one has been deleted from the database. And where are we at? Okay, notifications and events. We're really breezing through this right now. Let's take Chirper to the next level by sending email notifications when a new chirp is created. In addition to support for sending email, Laravel provides support for sending notifications across a variety of delivery channels, including email, SMS, Slack, plus a variety of community-built notification channels have been created to send notification over dozens of different channels. Notifications may be stored in a database, so they may be displayed in your web interface. I'm trying to remember if the Livewire tutorial covered this, because I don't remember this, but it's been a while, so maybe they did. Creating the notification. Artisan can once again do all the hard work for us with the following command. So let's just create a new notification with this Artisan command. Let's go ahead and get out of here. What was it? Exit. I could have just Control C, but why not just type in exit? And then now we have created a new notification, and that is going to be in the app notifications directory. And I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller, and we're going to close that. Get back to our app. Now we have a new directory that I just created, and now we have a new notification here called the new chirp notification. And now let's see here. So let's open new chirp. The class allows you to accept the chirp that was just created and then customize the message to include a author's name and a snippet from the message. All right, so then we're going to import the chirp model, and then we're going to import what else? We're going to import this, and then let's see what else we're going to do here. So in the construct, we're going to pass in a chirp, and then what else are we going to do here? In the mail to mail, we're going to pass in a new line, and action get chirper. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace all of this. So we're going to replace the line in action and everything else in it right here. So that looks like what we're supposed to have there. And then we could send the notification directly to the store method in our chirp controller, but that adds more work for the controller, which can slow down requests, especially if we'll be queuing the database to send emails. Instead, let's dispatch an event that we can listen for in the process in the background queue to keep our application snappy. Creating an event. Events are a great way to decouple various aspects of your application, since a single event can have multiple listeners that do not depend on each other. Let's create a new event with the following command. All right, so we just created that new event here, and that is under apps events. So then we can see we have the events here, and then we have a chirps created event. I'll make that smaller again, and let's see what we need to do for that. We need to import our model, and then let's see what else. Again, so we're just going to pass in the chirp in the construct there. And I think that's all we need to do for now. Now, dispatching the event. Now that we have our events class, we're ready to dispatch it at any time a chirp is created. You may dispatch events anywhere in your application lifecycle, but as our event relates to the creation of an eloquent model, we can configure our chirp model to dispatch the event for us. Okay, so in the model, we import the chirps created event, and then we have a dispatches event array that we pass in there, and then it points to the created method. Am I getting that right? I think that's right. All right, let's go to the chirp. All right, so the chirp, now we're just gonna pass that in, and then we're gonna pass this in, or create this, I should say, under the fillable there. And then that's that. Now, anytime a new chirp is created, the chirp created event will be dispatched, creating an event listener. Now we've dispatched an event. We're ready to listen for that event and send our notification. We'll create a listener that subscribes to our chirp created event. PHP artisan make listener, send chirp created notifications, and then it's attached to the event created or the chirp created event. Okay. I really don't remember this being part of the Livewire stuff, so that's kind of interesting that this is being covered here. I don't feel like I remember this. Let's just keep following along for the sake of this tutorial. So we've created this event listener with that command, and now we're looking at this notification. So then let's import the model and the notification here. And then what are we doing? The class is going to implement the should queue that we just imported, or was that already imported? That's already imported. So then we're going to add that to this class. So it's going to use that. And then under the handle chirp created event for each user, we're not ID event chirp user ID cursor as user notify new chirp event chirp. Okay. Cool. All right. So, all right. So we've marked our listener with the should queue interface, which tells Laravel that the listener should be run by a queue. By default, the database queue will be used to process the jobs asynchronously. To begin processing queued jobs, you should run the PHP artisan queue command to work, artisan command in your terminal. We've also configured our listener to send notifications to every user in the platform except the author of the chirp. In reality, this might annoy users, so you might not want to implement the following feature. You might want to implement a following feature so that users that only receive notifications from accounts that they follow. We've used a database cursor to avoid loading every user in memory at once. In a production application, you should add the ability for a user to unsubscribe from notifications. All right, testing it out. You may utilize local email testing, catch all emails coming from your application. If you're developing via Docker and Laravel Sail, then Mailpit is included for you. Alternatively, you can configure Laravel to write a log. See, so that's what I've done in the past when I was testing email, and that's maybe what we'll do now. Let's see if I can do this quickly because I don't really want to set up Mailpit or anything like that for this, but I need to run this queue work command. Is that gonna jobs from default queue, and then testing it out. Let's see if I can. So, and then it will just show in the log. Okay, so if I just go to this in my .env file, and I'm gonna go to .env, and then what was that? Mailer. Okay, so it's already in log. So then I should be able to just go to my Laravel log. Where the hell is that in storage? Logs. All right, so it's not there yet, but it should be. If I create a new chirp, then something should show up. New chirp. Okay. Let's see, do we have anything in the log? Okay, local error, undefined property, chirp exception, undefined send mail notification, stack trace. Oh crap, I got an error. I really don't want to go down this rabbit hole right now. I'm trying to see. I was trying to follow the, did I miss something in that step? So it says, alternatively, you can configure to write to a log by editing the env file in your mailer environment to be mail over by default will be written to your log. Be sure to register at least 2 accounts. Is that what it is? Let's try it. I just want to see if it works. All right, let's see. Maybe it's because there's no other account. I don't know if that really could be it, but let's just see. Let's see, admin 2. And then, okay, so now we have that. Let's go to our chirps. And you can see this is from the other admin. And you can see that there's also, like, I can't remember earlier, they said you should be able to only edit the ones that you've created. So I don't have those buttons that are showing up for the editing. Let's see. Hello, world. And create that. Did I get a log error again? I'm getting the log error again. Really don't want to try to debug this, although like the developer in me is like, I gotta figure out what it is. Undefined property, event chirp created. I told myself that I was just going to leave it and not mess with it, but for the sake of completing the tutorial and having everything working, I was just like, I couldn't live with myself if I left off on saying like, nope, we're just going to do it like that and we're not going to fix the notifications. What's funny about it is that I spent, I don't know, a good like 15 minutes or so just looking at the log and then going through the code and trying to see like what could have been wrong. And then finally I was like, you know what? Let me just turn it on and off again. So what I did was I stopped the queue worker that was running and I restarted it. I submitted a chirp and things were working. So my notifications are working. You can see here we have the Laravel log. And in the env file, I made sure to point to logs so that we didn't have to use one of those email service testing tools like MailPit or the other ones that they recommended in the tutorial, and just have the email notification log in the error logs or in the Laravel log. And here you have it. I created the chirp and then I got this to display here and it's working. So we're done. Everything worked. If you have a problem with that logging at the end there, just restart the queue worker and you should be good. At least that's all I had to do. So there we have it. We built Chirper with Inertia and Laravel. Nice. I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that you followed along and found good information in the little tidbits that I shared myself. I hope I didn't digress and start talking about too soon and threw you off. I tried my best to stick with what was being taught in the curriculum during this tutorial, but there were things that I kind of spoke on, and I hope that that stuff was helpful. In the future, if you want me to do a video on the deployment, or if you want me to maybe do a video on how to get up and running with Laravel Herd, or anything else that I may not have covered in this video, please let me know, because I am looking to make more content on Laravel. Also, even though I've done the Blade portion and the Livewire portion of the bootcamp, I'm happy to go over that content again. And if you want to see a video like this on the Livewire portion of the bootcamp or the Blade portion of the Laravel bootcamp, let me know in the comments and I'll try to make a video on that as well so that you guys can follow along with that stuff. I really enjoy Livewire and I think it's great, and that's kind of what I've been using. But again, I just wanted to do this video because I wanted to get up and running with Inertia, because I'm looking forward to Inertia 2.0 and I do see myself using it in the future. And I wanted to get a taste of Vue.js because I've heard a lot of great things about it. And that's why I made this video in the first place. All right, with all that said, I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.